Okay, everybody, so we're going to start out with actually creating our first worksheet, or better yet, our first spreadsheet, which is basically going to be a collection of worksheets, but in essence, our first worksheet. And we're going to keep track of some sales figures. I wanted to show you how you put this thing together. So we're going to start out from scratch. We're going to start from launching off into the program and getting to this point here. And then what we want to do is we want to create this thing from scratch. So we're going to start with a blank workbook. So we're just going to go over here to the blank workbook, click onto that, and that brings that up to the screen. Now, if you've never put together a worksheet before, then you might be a little intimidated by the screen itself. You have this big blank vastness, and you're like, well, where do I start? And even if you have been using Excel for a while, even at that point, you're not going to feel 100% comfortable as far as where to start. But the way you have to kind of think of it is, what are you trying to keep track of? I guess that's a good way to think of it. So what you have to kind of think of is, again, what are you trying to keep track of here? Let's just say that you've got 12 months of numbers from about, maybe let's say 5 different sales reps. All right. So the first thing that you want to kind of throw in there are those labels. In other words, where do you start? You start with the labels. You think about what you're trying to keep track of. And I know in this particular situation, I have 12 months of numbers, and I have about 5 different sales reps. All right. So what do I do? Where do I start? Well, usually you're going to try to think about, do you want to put your months maybe along the side? Do you want to put your people along the top, or vice versa? Okay. So if you decide that you want to keep your, let's say your people maybe along the top and your months along the side, then you have to think about this, that, okay, so if I were to start like right here and put, let's say, January, okay, and I'd put February, March, and April, and so forth like that, that'd be fine. But then where am I going to put my months, or my people, all right? So if I said, well, okay, well, I'm going to put my people here. Well, then you can't have January here, because if you got the person's name there, we're going to be putting the January number. You get it? So usually with these traditional type worksheets, which we're doing this time around, usually what you want to do is you want to start either at A2 or at B1. So this ends up being kind of like a dead cell here, okay? So we end up maybe saying, okay, we want to put our muscle on the side there. So I'm going to click on to A2 here. I'm going to type in JAN. Now, you'll notice how I did this. I did it with a capital J, small a, small n. And the reason for why I did that is because I can also do it all in uppercase. I can do it all in lowercase, but I'm typing it in the way that I want to see it later on printed on a sheet of paper. So whatever way it looks like here, that's how it's going to look when you go to print it out. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit the enter key. There we go. And now there's January. Now, it just so happens, though, that there are built-in lists inside this program that when you type in a part of the list, you can actually get the rest of the list to come in automatically. It's pretty cool. The way you do that is, we'll go back to January, okay? We're going to go to the bottom right-hand corner. This is what we call the fill handle here. Looks like a little black plus. What we're going to do is we're going to hold down the mouse button. We're going to drag it down like this, and as you see, as I'm dragging it, you'll see each of those months kind of pop in there, see? So I'm going to bring this all the way down until it says December. If I go too far, then it's January. Now, if I go too far, I just drag it back up. I just make sure I don't let go of the mouse button yet, okay? So I can go as far as I want, but eventually I get it to where I want it to be. Once I've done that, I let go, and there we go. Now, just like if you were typing up a letter, like in word processing or something like that, you're not going to worry too much right now about how anything looks, how anything's aligned. You want to get all your data in first, and then you can go back and start formatting it. Because what happens is if you get too involved with making everything just so very perfect, everything that you do as you're doing it, you lose track of what you're trying to do. You forget what you're trying to put in. You get distracted, and that's not good. So again, we'll just get it all in there first, and then we'll make it look nice. All right? So that's good for that one. Now, our people, we're going to put those along the top here. So we're going to start here over at B1, and I'm going to type in chip. So I'll just type that in just like that. Now, I can hit the enter key, just like that, and then I'm going to have to take my mouse or use my arrow and get over to the next one. Now, another way of doing it would be, I'm going to put in Kathy, so I'll type in Kathy, and instead of hitting the enter key, I hit my tab key. So the tab key is good for entering and then moving to the right. The enter key is good if you're entering it and moving down, see? So I can hit my tab key, that moves it over as well. You can also use the right arrow key, but I don't want to get you into a bad habit because sometimes that right arrow key doesn't work, especially if you're editing the cell and now wanting to get out and enter it and then move it across, it won't let you do it too well. All right, so tab key is the way to go. All right, so our next one is going to be Susan, then a tab key, and then we're going to type in Emil, tab key, and then Linda. And then I'll just hit the enter key on that one. Now, before I go any further, I'm thinking about those months, and it might be nice, I'm just kind of thinking ahead, to have those broken down into quarters. So I actually see it as like quarter 1, quarter 2, 3, and 4 for the 12 months. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a new column in here, okay, push everything over. Now, the way to do that is we just go over here where it says A, anywhere in that area where you see the arrow. I do a right click, and then there's a choice there called Insert. Click onto that, it pushes it over. It's perfect. Now, for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to A2, and for the first quarter, I'm just going to type in QTR space 1 for quarter 1. And then I'm going to go down to April. I'm just hitting my down arrow key there. I'm going to type in QTR2. And then in July, I'm going to do another QTR3. And then for the final quarter, QTR4. There we go. Okay, so now that I've got my labels in, now it's time to actually put the numbers in. And that's why it's important, obviously, to have the labels in there first so that you know what and where to put in your numbers in. In other words, I'll know what number to put in because I'll say, well, what I need to put here would be the January number that Chip did, or the February number that Kathy did, just like that, right? So it gives me a little perspective, makes it a little bit easier to kind of tackle here. Now, let me show you one way of putting in a number. Let's say for the first number here, it's going to be 10 million. Okay, so I'm going to type in 10, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, right? Enter that in, there's 10 million. All right. Now, if the data that you're typing in is coming directly off of another sheet of paper or whatever it is, wherever it's coming from, what happens if maybe the number that you want to put in for February is actually comprised of like 3 different numbers, okay? Now what you think you'd probably have to do is first of all type in those 3 numbers into an adding machine or a calculator, come up with that number, and then go back to here and type in that number for February, all right? Well, another way of doing it would be to actually use Excel as a calculator, believe it or not, right? So what we can do here, and this is how you do this, it's going to be as if you were entering in a formula. So you might not know anything about formulas right now, and you will learn that later on. We're going to do some formula actually in this particular video, but we've got plenty of other videos in the other area or modules that you can watch and learn from there. But the point of the matter is that this is a very simple thing, all right? So what we'll do here is we'll hit the equal. The equal we always use for a formula, all right? And we actually will type in the numbers that we're trying to calculate. So let's just say that we want to put in, let's say 6 million. All right. And then we want to do plus. Okay. And let's say we're going to type in 7 million. And then another plus. And let's just say it's 2 million, right? Now, that's probably something you could have done in your head. But my point is that you can plug in the numbers like this, as if it were a formula, hit the enter key, and there we go. Now I look at that and say, oh, wait a minute, that's not right. And I go back, now watch this, I go back to the cell, and up here on the formula bar is what I just typed in, see? And I notice that I typed in too many zeros. I actually put in 60 million instead of 6 million. So I can just kind of click up here, hit the backspace key, just like that, hit enter, and all is copacetic. So that's pretty much all you have to do for that. And all you have to do is then go through and type in the rest of your numbers. Again, all you need to do is, let's say you type in 18, 000, 000, there's your 18 million. Now, I'm not going to make you watch me type in all the other numbers here. So through the magic of video, I can actually get all the rest of the numbers in just a snap of my fingers. So watch this. And boom, there it goes. Look at that, huh? Unbelievable. The speed, huh? Well, I didn't think you wanted to watch me type in each of these numbers here. So I think you get the idea of you either enter the number in directly or enter it in as a formula or whatever we did before. See, so that's it. That's how we get our data in there. Now, we need to go back in there and do some more things with this. First of all, if you're going to have your numbers, the minimum that you'd want to do is maybe add up how much each of the columns and each of the rows comes out to be. All right, so we want to know what we did in January with all the reps, and we want to know what Chip did over the course of the whole year. Same thing with Kathy and Susan and so forth. So what we want to do here now is actually put in a formula that will add this up. So what we're going to do here is we're going to click on to H2 here, okay? Now, one way of putting in a formula, which would be what we call the sum formula, is using the auto sum, as we call it, right? So what you do is you go to that one cell right there, and that cell is going to be the one that we want to put the formula into. Now, you'll then go over to the Home tab. You'll go over here to the auto sum, which is just this little sigma here, guys. So you click onto that, and there it goes. Now, what it's showing is that it wants to sum up this range of C2 through G2, and that looks right. So we're going to go ahead and hit the enter key, and that puts that one in there for us, just like that. Okay. From that point, then, what we can do is we can also go back and we can copy this formula all the way down. So what happens is if you click onto this cell here, you'll see up in the formula bar that formula that we just put in there. So you'll see what it's doing, all right? What's really neat is that when we go to copy this all the way down, we're actually copying the content, not the result here, but the content. And the content is this. As we copy this down, the reference to row 2 that we have in here, you know, from C2 to G2 is going to change to row 3 or C3, G3, and on and on. And that's what we call relative formatting or relative cell addressing in this case, right? So what we'll do is we'll go to the bottom right-hand corner, get that black plus, drag it down like this, let go, and it does that for us. I'm going to hit undo just to show you another way. The other way would be to go to the bottom right-hand corner and just do a double click on it, and that will copy it all the way down. So you'll see on this one here, it's row 3, right? On here, it's row 4, row 5, and so forth. Pretty neat. Now, another way to do the total formula is to go down here, and we're going to kind of select the whole area to begin with. All right, so we're going to select the whole range that we want to put formulas in that will be adding up the columns, right? So you select that area. We go back over here and we hit our auto sum, and there it goes. Now, in this case, we're seeing scientific notation, believe it or not. And it has a habit of doing that once in a while. we're not going to worry about that right now because we're going to go ahead and we're going to format our numbers to look the way we want them to look. So if you ever get this happening to you, don't worry about it. You can just go through some simple reformatting of these numbers to make it look good. So here's what we're going to do to do the formatting. We're going to select this range, just like that. So we're using our white plus right here, right? And we're just kind of dragging across like this and dragging it down like that, see? And then once we've done that, we'll go into the Home tab. In the Home tab, we have this number group here. And let's say we're going to start out with just using commas, right? So we're going to go and hit the comma button right here. And it does that for us, see? So what it did, though, it gave us commas in our numbers, which is good. That's what we wanted. And it also changed that scientific notation. But it also gave us cents. And we really don't need cents. We don't need a 0.00 for this, all right? When you're talking about, millions and millions of dollars and you're worried about a few pennies. Now, accountants will go crazy. They'll say, oh, no, got to have that. But we're not going to do it here, all right? So it's 0 anyway. So to get rid of those zeros, what we can do is we can go to this little button right here, which will decrease the decimals, just like that. So there we go. Now, a few other things I want to do here are put the titles for the totals here. So I'm going to go right over here. And I'm just going to type in the word total, all right? And then I'm also going to go over to here and type in the word total, enter that in. And the other thing is that I'd like to have a title along the top of all this. I want to put something like sales, top reps 2020 or something like that, right, for a title. Now, I didn't leave myself any room up there. I started with that very first row, and I don't have any room up here. So what I need to do is just like when I inserted a new column here, I'm going to insert a new row here. So when I insert the new row at row 1, it'll push everything else down. So I'm going to go over here to row 1. So I'm pointing out there right with that little arrow right on top of the number, the row number there. I'm going to right click it, hit insert, and it puts it right on there for me, just like that. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go up to here, and I'm going to type in my my title, which in this case is going to be sales, and then maybe top reps 2020. Enter that in. All right. Now that doesn't really jump out at you, and we're going to make it jump out at you in just a little bit here. So the other thing I'd like to do is get the like the title that I have here that I just put in there. I want to make that perfectly centered between A and H here, okay? Now, if you click onto the cell just like that, we could go up to here, okay, click up there, and start hitting the space bar a bunch of times, and eventually that would push it so far over that it would look like it's centered on the worksheet. I don't want to do that. What we're going to do instead is we're going to go here and we're going to, first of all, we're going to select this whole range, just like that, okay? So from A all the way over to H, because that's going to be the range that we want this to ultimately be centered within, right? Now, once you've done that, we go to Home, we go to Merge and Center, and there we go, just like that. Now, speaking of centered, I'd also like to take all of what I see here and get these labels centered over each of the columns. So all I have to do is just select that area, and then over in the Home tab, in the alignment area, I've got this button right here. I'm going to click onto that. That makes them centered. All right. Now, the other thing I want to do is get each of these labels I have for the quarters. I want them to be kind of like in one cell, like have these 3 cells merged, and then have this kind of like in the middle of it. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select just that range right there, and I'm going to click on to Merge and Center. And what that does is it merges it, all 3 cells. Now what I'm going to do next, though, is this is now at the bottom of what I merged, right? So in the alignment area here, we've got this guy here, which is showing that whatever I'm selected on right now is at the bottom And that's what you see right there, right? If I click onto this guy here, then it goes into the center. All right? And I can do the same thing for the rest of them. So I do the next one like this. I select that like that. Hit merge and center. And then center it. Do this range right here. Merge and center. Center it. And the same thing with the last one here. So merge and center. And then center that one. That looks pretty good. Now, the other thing is the width of what that's being taken up here. In other words, this is a little too wide. This is definitely too wide. So let's get this kind of crunched in here. The reason why I'm making a big deal out of this is that later on when you go to print, you want to make sure that you don't have a lot of extra space that's going to make it for sure end up maybe having to go onto 2 sheets of paper, right? If you can reduce the size of it now, it'll be less that you'll have to make it shrink when you go to print it. Because if you have to shrink it when you print it, the more you shrink it, the smaller it's going to get and the harder it is for you to read, right? And plus two, it just looks a little strange, a lot of white space here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select, now watch this, I'm going to select from A all the way over to H, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to point to any one of the borders. You see where I'm pointing at right here? Get that double tipped arrow, point to any one of them, double click it, just like that, and there you go. Now you might go back, you might click on it like this, go back maybe to A and B, and instead of double clicking it, hold down your mouse and maybe drag it out just a little bit, just to get a little bit of extra space in there and so forth, right? Now, when I look at these labels over here, I'd like to maybe take these guys and make them all centered, and I can do that using this button right here, so that'll center them. All right. Now I'm thinking also that for sure on the labels, so for like row 1 and row 2 here, all these labels here, we definitely want to make them bold. So over in the Home tab, we have the B button for bold, just like that. And over here, we'll select this range also and make those all bold as well. See, this makes them stand out a little bit more. Now, to go further with making them stand out, what we can do is we can select row 2 here, just from A to H, and we can put a border at the top and bottom of this, right? So you go over to the Home tab and you've got the font area here, and this is going to be a little drop-down arrow called, this is the border button here, but you're going to click on this little drop-down arrow, and we're going to tell it that we want to put a top and a bottom border on this, so top and bottom. It'll be the same thing as you coming in here and doing the bottom and then doing the top, but we're just going to do a top and bottom together at one time. Click that. Now when I click away from it, there's your border. Now I also want to put a border exactly the same way on row 15, so I'll go down here to row 15, select that, hit my button here. This will give you the last thing that you did. I can just hit the face of it here. So I'll click that, and now when I click away from it, there's your border there. Now I'd also like to put a vertical border from here to here on the right side, right? So what I can do is I'll go over here and tell it I want to put a right border in, and then I'll select this range here and tell it that I want to put a right border in. I'll just hit that again, and there we go. Now I can also put a border, I'll go to this cell right here and tell it that I want to put a border at the bottom, so bottom border. Go to this one here, bottom border, this one here, bottom border, and this one already has a border, so that's it on that one. And then what I can also do is put a bottom border, take this whole range here, right, and do a bottom border, this whole range, same thing, bottom border, this range here. So what's happening is I'm selecting that range, hitting bottom border, so it's putting at the bottom of that selected range. And there we go. I can also give it just a little bit of shading. So let's say on this range right here, I'll go over to my little paint bucket here. It's called Fill Color. Hit the drop down and go with a very light color. Now, as I hover over these, you can see all the different colors. So you might find some other colors you'd rather have. Maybe you want to go with green. But we'll just do the gray here. So I'll do like a kind of a light gray there. I'll do the same color for this one here. Because I just picked that color, you know, for up here, I can just hit the face of the button there, and that'll do the same thing. And then I'll do the same thing for the quarters. All right, so we'll make the quarters the same way. So there we go. Not bad, right? Now you might say, well, Chip, you know, maybe this will be good too. So, okay, fine. I'll select that, and I'll do that as well. So now, not looking too bad at all. So it's pretty neat because, you know, this is what we've been doing here so far has been what we call formatting. And formatting really makes your information stand out. It's very easy when you look at this. Wow, I can see what we've got here. We've got quarterly breakdown. We got our reps at the top there. Great stuff. Only other thing you might want to do is take the title here, click onto it, and go to your first A here, the increased font size, and make that a little bit bigger. You can see as you make it bigger, it automatically becomes taller. All right? So you might maybe bring it down to maybe something like that. Then you might even think about going between 1 and 2 over here to make row 1 just a little bit taller, just like that, see? And then while you're still on it, make it middle aligned, right? And that will bring the title up. So now it really looks like a little banner there. But what a great little sheet there. Very easy to put together. Now, as a grand finale, and I always kind of tell people to do this, you know, when you put together a worksheet, it doesn't hurt, if you can, to add a graph or a chart to it to really kind of paint a picture of your numbers. And I'm going to show you in less than a minute almost where you can actually create a graph that, in this case, that focuses on maybe our totals over here, breaking it down by what you see over here. So I want to see a graph that pretty much graphs my totals for each of the months. Now, if you want to learn a little bit about graphing, Module 9, which is the charts and graphs module, we do a ton of these things, okay? So if you're looking to learn about that, take a look at Module 9. You don't have to go through these videos in any particular order. You pick a module that you want to look at and go with it. So anyway, what you'll do is you'll select over here the labels that I want to graph. And then what you do is you hold down the Control key and then you select the numbers over here. All right. And I think, yeah, it worked okay there. So again, you go over here, you select this range, hold on the Control key, and you select that range, just like that, right? You can do it reverse, doesn't matter, but you get that all selected, right? And then what you do is you go back into Insert, right? We go over here to we got a lot of different graphs here, but we're going to go ahead with our column graph here. We'll do a 2-dimensional. We'll do this one right here. Click onto it, and there's your graph. I mean, that's pretty quick. Now, you'll notice what's really neat about it is that what we call the x-axis down here at the bottom has our labels that you see here, and then the bars are representing, you know, the numbers that you have over there. But you'll notice how it nicely grouped the quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4 because of the way that we set this up. So just keep that in mind. Now, what we can do, first of all, with the title, is I can click on the title here, go up onto my formula bar up here, hit the equal, and then click onto my title right there, hit the enter key, and it puts that right in there for me. All right? And I can go back in there and, you know, make it bold, make it a little bit bigger if I wanted to, that kind of thing. All right? That's one thing. Now, the other major thing here would be the bar colors here. What I can do here is I can double click any one of them, just like that. A little panel pops up on the side here. And what I can do is I can actually make the gap less. So the gap between the bars, make that a lot less. Bring it down like that. Makes it a lot wider. All right. And then I can go over to my little paint bucket here, the fill and line, go to my fill, and tell it that I want to vary my colors by point, meaning I want different colors for each of these points here. Click onto that. I get all those colors. That's great. And I'll just close that up. And there we go. There's our graph. Then what I can actually do is take this, drag it over here to the side. Oop, kind of drag it over like that. Probably the better thing would be to maybe zoom out here a little bit, right? And you can actually see that, right? And then I can just kind of drag this wherever I need to, just like that. I can go over to my side here, and I can double click this, all right? And tell it that I want the units to be in, let's say, thousands, all right? So I go here and find thousands, right? And then I can go ahead, all right, and I'll close that up. All right, not too bad. So that looks pretty good. The only other thing you can do too, don't mean to keep on going with this, but this is good stuff to know. If I'm looking at my January through December numbers, where am I trending? Does it seem like the values are kind of going up? Can I expect that maybe for the next year, it'll be a little bit higher, a little bit smaller, depending on what I've got here? You know, given what I've done every month, what's the trend? Is it trending up? Is it trending down? So what you can actually do is you click on the graph, you hit your little plus here, and you tell it that you want to put a trend line in. So you click onto that, then you just kind of click away from it, and there's your trend line. That gives you a sense that things are looking up, okay? They're actually increasing there, all right? So there you go. So hopefully this will come in handy, knowing how to do this. I know it's been a long video here, but at the same time, you've learned quite a bit of stuff here. So again, you get your labels in there, get your numbers in, you can do your formatting, your formulas and so forth. And then if you want at the very end, create a graph off of some of the data. We could have also done another graph where it could have been taking the people here and taking their totals down here as well. We could do either way, but we just decided to do it this way. So thanks for watching the video, everybody. Take care.